We thought we'd, like Luke was saying, so really focus on that concept of prototyping and AI and give you guys some tools of what you can actually use today, tomorrow to start prototyping. So we'd start just at the beginning. Obviously, we know you know what prototyping is, but thinking about prototyping in terms of why do we prototype? What is the purpose? And what do we want to gain from prototyping? That question and starting with why you're prototyping is obviously very important because there are so many tools to use, there are so many methods, but having that really clear of why you're prototyping is important. So obviously you can prototype, we said at the very beginning, you guys said at the beginning, for look and feel, for speed, absolutely. We can also prototype to test as well. So maybe you want to prototype a new feature or a different way to engage with your customers that you found in your last module. All things can be done in prototyping without investing into your full build or disrupting your core code base or your core customers. So we can really use prototyping to test, to show what's going on in our heads, for investors, to try out new ideas as well. And AI can help with all of this and make prototyping very, very, very fast. Luke has some examples of literally within minutes, and also simple. Again, we're not coders, but we were able to use these tools to be able to create some really cool things. So with that in mind about prototyping and why we might prototype and use AI, we just wanted to do a little bit about like our approach from Mohara's perspective. So obviously we're a tech company, so we love AI, but we understand it is not the be all end all. So the barrier to entry has been lowered significantly in the last couple of months, obviously with ChatGPT, etc. But if anyone's tried to quickly use ChatGPT instead of doing research, you understand you don't always get the right answer in the right prompt with the first question. You still need to prompt these very sophisticated tools in a very specific way to get the answer you want. Therefore, we're just saying in general, it still requires human creativity, interaction, and a little bit of learning, to be honest. Sometimes when we speak to our very technical engineering colleagues, they say, this tool is so easy to use. Oh, you can do things in 2 or 3 minutes. And then if I, for instance, go and do it without being a Python developer and having basic code knowledge, it takes me half an hour. So usage is lower. It's definitely more accessible to access all of these really impressive tools, but it still requires our creativity, our ideas, and our kind of human touch, shall we say. All right, so before we get into some specific tools, these are some photos from a conference I attended here in Toronto just a couple of weeks ago, earlier in the summer, and it was called Collision Conference, and it's had over 400 or 500 startups, and there was about 150 AI startups specifically. So there's some there that were using AI to detect in the medical field from some diagnosis, to one that's kind of hiding there. Acrylic was actually using AI to digitally generate art and have it verified and certified on a blockchain. So the variety is intense, and everyone seems to be saying AI and what it is. But we wanted to just go through just some practical examples first of how you can use some AI right now, today. And then Luke's also going to take us through some really cool examples of how you can use different types of AI prototyping tools specifically. So if anyone has any questions in these upcoming sections, please put it in the chat or on the Menti. And Luke, I'll hand over to you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Jackie. So AI during prototyping. I was very glad to see, Ramal, that screenshot of Miro. I love Miro. I spent a lot of time living inside Miro and FigJam. So the first point here is, you know, I think it's probably a point that some of us are familiar with, but it's the idea of AI as that assistant that's helping you summarize ideas, helping you filter through from large amounts of notes down to distinct takeaways. And the first point to start at is just the way that AI is becoming built in some of the tools that we're already using. So within Miro, for instance, you can, if you're collecting ideas, if you're collecting feature ideas, if you're collecting feedback from users, from user interviews, either within a Notion or within a Miro, you're now getting to the point where with AI built in, it becomes really easy to, on the fly, do some summarizing, do some, pulling down from what you as humans have put into the space, down into things that become more easily workable, that you can take into your prototyping process from there. And I think that is all kind of part of prototyping. There's obviously a prototype, but then the prototyping is also a process. It's not necessarily just the prototype output. It's the process of prototyping as well. So you're saving time on cleaning up copy, summarizing or generating additional ideas. The danger of relying too much on AI, I've referred to as a blandness trap, creating lots of the same. If you're leaning very much into AI tools and asking to just spit out outputs, you are ending up with things that are based off of what's already existing, and that can mean that everything can start to look the same, and maybe that means it stands out less to users or less to the people that you're showing it to. The valid counterpoint when I've brought this up in discussion with people is, well, how unique is 90% of human input? So I do understand that even when we as humans are creating ideas, sometimes we're also creating things that are not necessarily unique. It's more about execution than it is about whether or not the specific thing is new. So that's a little bit of groundwork. Some useful Gen AI tools, ChatGPT, live in that. It's fantastic to just have the tab open and ready to go into. And I'm very happy that ChatGPT allows you to paste longer and longer bodies of text into that input field so that you can work on more and more things. Midjourney is great for creating imagery. We'll touch on some other tools. I'll touch on some other tools as well. But Midjourney does make very fantastic images. I think, so GitHub Copilot we use within Mohara when we're writing code. We'll touch on that later on as well. And there are other tools in terms of creating videos, in terms of creating images too. But I think we're probably all quite keen to dive into some examples. Websites. A website can be a prototype. I think, so in this video, what we can see is an example of what Wix is doing with AI. I think it took me about 6 minutes to go through the Wix. It feels a little bit like a hard-coded templating process and a little bit of AI. So I don't think it's very, very deep. But Jackie said that at the start that this presentation is out of date at the point of talking. I think over the coming weeks and over the coming months, the tools, the way that a business like Wix utilizes AI is just going to become more and more advanced. So, I was able to, within 6 minutes, create a template for a e-commerce website. And what really stood out to me about that is that at some point in past years, if you were thinking about a startup that requires an e-commerce site, then what a prototype meant at that point was maybe going and validating that people want to buy the specific thing that you're looking to sell, or that sellers existed for it, depending on the context. At that point, an e-commerce website wouldn't have been considered a prototype. An e-commerce website would have been considered an MVP. But when it only takes you a few minutes to use a tool to spin up a very light e-commerce website, then suddenly actually having the e-commerce website can be considered part of prototyping. And that's actually quite interesting when it comes to product development. I've put here, will the e-commerce site that you put together in this process be perfect? No. But I think the better question is, will it help you focus your resources on more valuable tasks, like validating, do people want the thing that you're buying, or do the sellers exist, or is there value to be created? The really awesome thing about this is that it becomes easier and easier and easier to get something simple out fast. And that came up in the Menti earlier on, right?
And just to say another point on that one, specifically websites, personally, I found fairly daunting. Again, there's lots and lots of tools out there, far more comfortable in PowerPoint as a previous management consultant. But I can truly tell you that spinning up a website through these tools, especially Wix, extremely fast. And if your goal also, obviously in prototyping, is your users or bringing something to life, I think website really makes it a very powerful statement. It's more than a clickable prototype, because you actually have that website with different components. It is going to take a little bit longer than a clickable prototype. But like we said, Luke could get something half decent together in 6 minutes. So the templates that they start with now already has a little bit of user experience method in those templates. So you shouldn't have to really be moving buttons too much. You should be having your navigation bar standard, all things that we've kind of become accustomed and expect when we start interacting with web tools. So just wanted to say that, Luke.
Great. Thanks very much, Jackie. Wix isn't the only one. There are others like Squarespace, but when reviewing the, we're talking about AI here, Wix seems to be leading the charge within the month of August on, including AI into the actual flow of creation. Squarespace is obviously the other big competitor to Wix in terms of making websites in a drag and drop and easy way. And they have some great tools when it comes to AI within the building area. So not quite typing in and talking to an AI like we saw in this video, where it says, this is the kind of business that I want to create. This is the kind of website, this is my look and feel. It's more within this, you've got a page of things that you're selling, and those things require descriptions. You're able to use the built-in AI tools to generate copy or come up with new heading ideas. So, they're even making the process of filling the website easier as well. So great assistant type tools there. In terms of interface designs, again, within the month of August, these folks at UIZ are leading the charge. What they are putting out is similar to the Wix flow. You're able to go through and talk to the AI assistant on UIZ, describe the kind of application that you want to build, and then it's creating some templates for you. Maybe just to rewind, so within interface designs here, what we're talking about is the screens that will become a mobile application, or the screens that will become a web application. So on the previous slide, we're talking about actually creating a website that you publish to the internet and people come to use it. This is on interface designs. The use cases that we're talking about here are more like you are talking to investors, or you're talking to users, and you need something to talk around so that you can get your idea visually out there, so that someone can understand visually what it is that you're trying to achieve. That's what this is going to help with. I believe that within UIZ, you will even be able to create clickable prototypes, as Jackie mentioned before. So you'll be able to, a number of years ago, if you wanted to very quickly get together your ideas for what your application looks like, you go to pen and paper and you draw the app out in paper and you put that in front of someone, and you gauge their interactions with it. I still think that that process is really useful because it's so free, and I still think that we should all be doing lots of that. But now the process of creating high fidelity designs, which at one point came later and later in the product development journey, because of the way that AI is making it simpler and easier and cheaper, it just brings it earlier on so that it can form part of your early ideation. Will the designs, I think there's a question around what will the output of this be good for? I suspect that, having been through the product development process within a few different areas over and over again, there are often so many individual use cases that need to be thought out really carefully when you get to the point of development. So I don't think that within the next few months we'll see the output of things from applications like UIs that be ready for development. But I also think that that's okay. I think that the point of this is that it's creating something for you to talk around, for you to put in front of users, for you to get feedback from, for you to include in your slide decks. And then once you get closer to that point of, okay, now we actually want to build an MVP, then that's the point where you come and bring some design into the process. Design from a human perspective. A second point on interface designs. Figma, in my opinion, is the market leader on creating good designs. The Figma tool is just fantastic. And if anyone's been thinking about learning a design tool because they're really interested in design and it's something that you want to lean into, I think Figma is definitely the one to lean into rather than some of the others. Figma is also leaning into AI. I don't expect, I've been through the announcements that they made at their conference this year on how they'll be tying in AI into the Figma product. And where the previous two examples showed something that really helps the layperson step in and create an output that they wouldn't normally be able to create. Suddenly you can create a website without needing to know how to code. Suddenly you can create designs without needing to understand how interface design works. Figma is not really aiming at solving that problem. So what I expect that we'll see more and more of is that for designers that you work with, the Figma tool will expand and enhance the way that they work. It'll help them achieve more in less time. It'll help them with some creativity elements. I think maybe whilst this was playing, what you can see here is that we've got the workspace for a designer. The designer types in albums, and then what comes up is different options for how you could display albums. So there the AI is taking into account that this page is about music and that albums refers to music albums. And immediately it's saying, okay, so within the screen that's of an application that's talking about music albums, how could we display it? So that gives a flavor of what we could expect from that tool. Over on the left, we can see that example I mentioned earlier with, you've got a full page of Miro designs. Actually, this will be FigJam, not Miro. And it's summarizing that into points, which becomes very useful. Okay, video generation. I think straight off the bat, I can say that I don't think that that video generation is quite where some of the other tools are. And that's probably just because of the complexity in video generation. I think, again, this is very much a personal opinion, but I think if your audience is comprised of early adopters, then the video generation tools might be something that you could lean into on your website or in demonstration videos. And the reason I say that there need to be early adopters is because all the video that's created by AI feels a little bit like something that's generated by AI. You can feel that it's not quite from real life. Whereas with images or with some of the other use cases, it's it feels a little bit more like things that you'd see elsewhere. So they can be a little, I mean, if you look closely at what we're seeing in this video, you can see that it's not quite, it feels a little bit strange. So for the early adopters, that's fine, but it's a bit disconcerting if you go onto a retailer's website and then you see a video that feels like it's from the Matrix, perhaps.
But again,
the one to check out is Runway, and it's getting better. You know, as we speak, it's improving, and it's becoming easier and easier to use, and better quality outputs.
yeah, I was just going to say, but again, like if part of your product is something you want to communicate in your storytelling, is more of a feeling, an emotion, or a vibe. If you can do this in 4 or 5 minutes, obviously video and visual is like very impactful. So it could be something, again, you can manipulate some of the things as well in the videos, so it's not just stock standard. And I would say when we were playing around with it, Luke, things with landscape, things with like a bit more of this is without specificity, it did pretty well. But yes, if you're asking it for, what did you say, Luke? I think like a specific person was like doing a coffee and the hand was a little wonky. So make sure you watch the whole video before you put it in.
And that again speaks to where we are in time. I think that in 6 to 12 months, where we'll be at is that you won't be going to the stock video website. You'll be going to the website like Runway or HeyGen and typing in what it is that you want to see. And then instead of browsing stock videos to see, I mean, that's really what you do with a stock video website. You'd go to a stock video website, you type in what it is you want to see, and then you click through all the results and you look for the thing that's closest to what you find. Maybe you don't find the perfect match, maybe you do. And so you're having to fit things to your vision. Where we'll get to is that you type in your vision and something with a good degree of fit will be produced. And that's really exciting. But as Jackie mentioned, I typed in video, I gave it an image of a coffee shop, and I was trying to create like a video that you might use for a landing screen in a coffee shop. Maybe the kind of video that would be sitting in the background and moving silently and giving it a good look and feel. And it kind of created it well. And then I had this hand with like a bunch of fingers moving in strange ways, coming to grab the coffee, and it did. So it's those are the things that remove us from where it would go, where it would want to get to in video creation for prototyping. Image generation, much cleaner than video generation. This is a screenshot from ImagineAI. On the right here, we have the logo for Midjourney. I think the quality of output in Midjourney is better. Midjourney is paid. Imagine.ai is free. And again, in situations where your output is not a human, where you're thinking about products, where you're thinking about things with crisp lines, it has very, very good quality outputs. So this was jars of sweets on a shelf, and that output it's clean, it's beautiful, and it was so quick to put out. So this is great for generating specific imagery for your website, for social media, for pitch decks, and great for where stock images fail. So where there's something specific that you need, and you need an image of a product within a certain color scheme, or some specific element that you don't want to browse through stock imagery for. Other useful use cases are when it comes to image generation is like creating images to go with social media posts, creating images for social media posts or adverts online. For those, you can use Imagine.ai. Another one is what came earlier. Microsoft Designer. Microsoft Designer is quite good for that use case as well. Next is copy, using AI for text. Naturally, we need to have the logo for ChatGPT here, great quality outputs, and you can have I'm sure many of the people in this call have already used that tool because it's so popular. For very use case specific examples, we've got Texter.ai and WriteSonic, and these are both tools that are kind of made as, the assistant to someone who's running a business. With the screenshot from Texter.ai, you can see that they've got specific flows for product description, specific flows for Google descriptions, specific flows for product, specifically from the context of Amazon. Within Texter.ai, there's also a brand voice generator. So if you have generated a landing page or a website for your startup, you can feed it the link. It can crawl through the text that you've already put up, and it can develop an understanding for how you want to communicate your brand. And then it can use that when it comes to quickly generating social media posts, or quickly generating new articles, or quickly generating new copy, which is a huge time saver. And if you're having to wear many hats and get to so many different things, and your to-do list is longer than you could ever check through, these kinds of tools are great. I said brand voice is part of text. I've just seen on the screenshot, it's actually part of WriteSonic. Both tools are fantastic. Right.
So maybe we'll just pause there also. So any questions about some of those tools, use cases? I can't see anything on Menti or in the chat, but any questions from anyone? It's a big download, but no. Okay, then I think the last couple of slides, we just wanted to talk about what we use at Mohara as well. So we do use Figma for all of our designs. So that's when Luke was having some of those discussions about what AI is involved in there. And then we also use something called GitHub, which is a bit more technical, but it's just to ensure that our code is written as efficiently as possible, which has a huge impact when you're building really your MVP on your usage, your infrastructure, technology stack, etc. So it's something also, if you're in the journey or further along the journey, I would definitely ask your development partner, your build partner, what kind of AI tools do they use to ensure quality, speed, and efficiency, because that can have a big cost impact down the road. There's some other things here of just, again, at Mohara in our Slack channel, we share a lot of what's up and coming for AI. So these are just some links that the team has shared, and I thought were quite funny. One says God mode, which actually speaks to all the major LLMs at once, which is very interesting. And then on the right there is a video where you can build a chatbot in, again, 8 minutes using low-code tools. So again, if that's something that in your product is really important, the customer engagement or the feedback part, beyond having user testing and someone conducting user research, you might even think about putting a chatbot in your prototype, which again, like Luke was saying, that's something we would probably do in MVP stage, but now with all these AI tools, you can actually get feedback or interaction with your end users almost immediately.